Hello Spiritborn fans, today I want to present my build. I recently did a rank 1 um, with the build. So what's the build about? Of course it's a toxic skin. For those who know me, I do a lot of poisoned builds back then, especially for toxic skin. But this time toxic skin will not work for us, and I swapped to poison swarms. It's really interesting with the new interaction on the skill tree. Yeah, but basically, all who knows me for the toxic skin build, the base movement, the base patterns, the base how does the build works is stayed nearly the same. We use our rushing claw to enabling our movement. It's now free without a target. So for speed farming, not in the pit or just open world stuff, it's really comfortable. It's a really big update for the build. The damage comes from the swarms, so no real damage from the other poison stuff. The real big damage is only the swarms, and I will show in a minute when after the showcase how it will be generated. Yeah. Other things to say is a lot of build skills here are just for comfort, just for enabling the movement, just supporting the defensive or stuff. There is just one really important thing going on, and that is the counterattack. The new counterattack does those poison swarms, and the new counter effect has the nice thing on it that it has a really big base weapon damage scaling. So if you manage to get it on like 40, how I did it in this video, you have 1100 weapon damage scaling on it, and it really enables this build. And there are some gimmick mechanics with poison swarms some other people oversee and really doing different in this kind of build, because I saw a lot of builds using the new protector skill that generates also swarms, or they use Stinger who also do swarms. But yeah, swarms aren't that of a big deal on this other stuff. So like we can see here, we jump right into it. We use those 5 skills. We use our rushing claw to enable movement, and we use our toxic skin to enable defensive, do a little bit of damage and regain. We use our ferocity for cooldown reduction and for cooldown reduction, and to enable endless rushing claw, so it's for movement and cooldown. We enable devourer for a little bit damage, a little bit heal, a little bit movement, and we enable scourge to proc our 5, or in this case our 4 set bony. And yeah, nothing else. Those 5 skills are just utility. The damage is just coming from our counterattack. And how this works is pestilence swarms can only be 18 instances out. So if you do like Stinger, or you do the new protector and mix in those other swarms will override your bigger swarms on counterattack. So you will override lower damage with you will override your big damage counts with lower counts, because if you spam Stinger or the no protector, you get those swarms really fast. But you will override the counterattack ones, and the counterattack ones are those who do the main damage. So you don't need and you don't want to use other swarms than the counterattack ones. That's the base. You have to have to know this by heart. Now, don't mix in other swarms. You can only have 18, and those have to be counterattack ones, because those scale the most. Like you can see here, you can't see it because the planner doesn't allow it. Yeah. So we look on the skill tree. We don't need anything on the first thing. We don't need any on the second branch too. What we use here is just vortex for the glyph with a bigger large area, and enabling this to do the not glyph, the runes. That's enabling this for the rune word. So just a big vortex thing. You need a little bit of grouping because Noxus resistance on the amulet profits from tighter group packs. So this is really a damage enabling in fact for trash packs. It is not just comfort, this is really damage enabling. And then we have our Ravager. This build does not work if you don't have 20 on Ravager. You don't have to start this without 20 ranks on Ravager. So you need the 15 ranks you can skill, and then on your charms you need, or on your boots you can do Ravager too, or all stats on an amulet, but you need 20 on this or this build doesn't work. Yes, so the other stuff we take here is longer duration. Then we do the minimum ferocity, so we only need the 20. This is mandatory too. And then we take the cooldown reduction, and the cooldown reduction doesn't get applied correctly here too. It's in fact on this level it's like 120% more cooldown rate, but yeah. We need a really tight cooldown reduction or cooldown rate for spamming our counterattack. So that's really nice. Then we have Toxic Skin. I put the least points in this, and yes, we use we use Scuttlebug here, and this does weakens aura, and it does armor percent, and this scales too. It isn't shown here correctly too. It's like 120% more armor too, and this is really big in those higher pit tier. Then we have our duration increased. Then we use Scorch. We need Scorch for our set bounty, and it's nice to have too. Scorch continuously is active and grants damage reduction. Then we have weakening too, and vulnerable too. So just a bone. So concussive stomp I used from the other rune word. And it grants barrier, it grants damage reduction, and lesser attack speed. It's really nice. You see this debuff on the enemies very least on Spiritborn, so this is really good and handy thing. And then some resolve. You could skip this. It isn't needed, but yeah. On the other hand, the other points would go into Toxic Skin. It isn't needed either, so whatever. So one of the most important and the most important damage skill is the counterattack one, and you get some cooldown reduction for ferocity here. That's really comes in good. Then increased damage, of course, and the main damage enabling and send out the 3 pestilence swarms. Then our movement setup is the Rushing Claw. The Rushing Claw, this is the most important one, consumes all our ferocity, but we have minimum ferocity of 4 because of Ravager. So it keeps auto-refilling. There's some strange bug going on this season, this add-on, and it doesn't auto-refill sometimes at the beginning of a dungeon or another instance. And then press Ravager and wait some seconds. It works, but sometimes it bugs a little bit out on the start, and then it is now, and it works later on perfectly. So I see I didn't change the skill tree here properly. We use evasive swipes, and evasive swipes let us roam free through the map. And here we have some extended duration for our counterattack as an example, and our toxic skin, or no, Scorch doesn't. It's just a little extra. You can use in boss fights or against uber bosses or so, you can use the first one here, evolving claws. You get some heal, you get some dodge, and you get the the last is not so important. Yeah, and then we use the Devourer. Devourer has a large uptime. The damage is not important. This is nice. This is a 20% buff on the duration, so it's more damage for our swarms. Then we have Sky and Souls. We get some vulnerable and we get some movement that comes in good. And then we have a permanent heal. That's really, really, really nice. So it's just a buff. And that's our skills. And on the Paragon board, I would suggest just look at it, and have to do some glyph fine-tuning maybe sometimes. But the only important I want to figure out here, this is the most important knot, and you should do this as fast as possible, because if you don't have this, the build doesn't work either. So you need the Ravager on 20 and this glyph, because this glyph, or legendary knot, reduces the cooldown. Every time you spam your Russian Claw, you reduce the cooldown of your skills. And this reduces the cooldown of counterattack, so you have a really, really tight uptime of the counterattack and have enough swarms on the field. If you don't have this, it's really, really isn't deep proof of damage, and you will feel it a lot. So this build isn't really suggested if you're just starting. Go and take some leveling guide from another stuff, and if you have your first paragon steps, this is really you go straight from here to this glyph, or you just rotate this board and attach it here. So you just need 5 or 6 steps to go there. If you have to enable this, otherwise you will really lack some damage. So on the setup for the charms, we use the 5 charms of Balazan's Bite, or in this case in the Uber endgame, with a set charm, use 2 of the Quality's Grace, because we get the 60% damage, and you can use the Balazan's Bite too. And sadly, we have to use Scourge to enable the poison. I hate Scourge because of the fear. The fear really, really doesn't make any sense on those Noxus Resonance builds. It's really a damage reduce to use this. But we have to use it for the 250% increase. But it's really sad. I would love to skip Scourge, but we have to use it. Yeah. So our item setup is Eber Walker, because we get 90% damage increase on our concussive on our counter attack, and the other stuff that should be on it are like shown. On this one, I would suggest to do some maximum life. Maximum life is in the end game really, really, really important. So you need some like 50k HP, so 40 to 58k HP, otherwise you will just die to some random effects, and yeah, then you can't push any pit. So you need some maximum life, and one I would take here. Then we have the chests. We use a normal legendary chest, and you can use here the counterattack one, and I see we have the wrong aspect here. We took maximum resolve stacks because, like, I changed it here right now. Per resolve stack, you get damage reduction, and you have like 35 in the end game. So yeah, can see it's 140 damage reduction on this, and you get damage from resolve stacks too. So we take resolve stack tempering. We do counter attack, of course, as star, and and max life decks and all resistance. On the gloves, we take some multipliers. You could skip one multiplier for max life if you feel you have to. Most important, of course, is the damage over time multiplier because it gets so big. Normally, you would take the poison damage multiplier because damage over time multiplier doesn't double proc with Noxus resistance. But the multiplier gets so big, it's does more damage, but it doesn't double proc, but still does more damage. So yeah. This one is the Pestilence Swarm, deals 100% more damage and spiral outwards and last longer. Last longer is very, very important because it does really a big difference to have this 18 counter attack swarms up. Then we have Temerity, best defensive here. You always have your 100% armor with it because you heal with the poisoning effects, the third set bony, 10% heal if you deal poison damage, and you have 18 instances rotating with you, so you always have your barrier up. And your Devourer does heal you too, so you always have some form of barrier or heal generation. You take some resolve stacks here too to get this sweet point. It's shown false here too. You get 13 in game with the resolve stacks. Yeah. Then we have the boots. Nothing too special here. Dex, max life, movement speed, resistances, of course, and more movement speed. You can dodge the movement speed if you have enough on other stuff. You can use another temper, but yeah. This is really important. Utility, I guess, aspect. Yeah. And this one does increase our damage with 150% if it's a defensive. Counterattack is a defensive, so 150% damage increase. Scorch 2. If we use it with 8 resolve stacks, and we have 30, so always 150% multiplier here, always 100% multiplier here, and then we use a normal weapon. I tested this with Shattered Foe, but it can't compete with this with a normal weapon because the double effect, the double scaling on the aspect with 350% more damage. The weapon damage on itself, it's just too much to compete because Shattered Foe doesn't have any weapon damage. The effect is only important if you don't use Noxus resistance, but then it doesn't scale that well. So yes, that's the most important aspect. You need this too because to do some poisoning damage for the pestilence swarms. Really important, really enabling the damage. Yes, we used poison damage multiplier and an all damage multiplier because the multipliers gets additive stacked, so you need some other buckets to interact with each other. So you have to do, sometimes you have a wool bucket, wool damage, poison damage, all damage, and damage over time bucket all interact with each other, and you have a bigger end damage than only the normal stacking normal poison damage multipliers, because they multiply each other, the different buckets, but just normal poison damage multipliers just stack on each other. So yeah, it's a little bit difficult, but take an all damage multiplier in one of this. Then we have Noxus Resistance Amulet. It's double ditching, enables double ditching for our poison swarms. Really, really nice. And you can took this here, it's not right. So you can do a second aspect on this too, relatively easily from the Horadric cube. But it seems like you can only get utility or defensive as a resource. You don't get offensive ones. So if this is true and you can't get offensive one, you have to roll for kinetic suppression. Because on the amulet, you get another multiplier with 50%, so you get 240% damage. Yeah, just keep this in mind. I don't know if you can get offensive, but yes. And this is, in fact, this is Noxus resistance, so your dots over time proc and get multiplied, and this direct damage Noxus resistance hit gets multiplied too. It's a double counting hit. That's why this is so important, because it enables damage over time that can proc this here. This really works hand in hand. And then we have Pestilence Swarms rotate around you, really important and really handy too for you. And this does some cooldown reduction on top, so really nice. And then at least we have some weapon damage increase. Of course, 2000 weapon damage on top is unbeatable. So we take this, of course. We already spoken about the magic runes, and yes, Spirit Halls are Gorilla and Eagle, so enabling 3 Spirit Halls for the counter attack and taking those damage multipliers here. And that's for the build. At this point I will add some ultra late game with the Horadric cube bonies. You can do the second aspect stuff and so on. All this shenanigans that doesn't get discovered. Sorry, getting discovered too early now. I only have my gear. Doesn't want to throw it in the cube and can't modify it anymore. So I don't have any of this shenanigans going on at the moment, and just have some shitty feather fall things on my amulet. So all this bonus stuff is getting and adding up on this. I'm just working with the endgame basics. But I will do some updates. We'll look at the leaderboard in the future, and yeah, let's see how this build will develop.